Highest percentage shot in basketball is a dunk.
Right when I get the basketball and I take that step or whatever and I start up, it's like no other feeling playing the game.
A rump roast and a bun toast.
And a 260-pound flying Dawkins.
There's a cake shake and a baby maker. There's all kinds, you know. There's some guys that finesse dunk and some guys that power dunk. And I would rather dunk on a guy to prove to him that he's just in the way.
Look out!
You can turn around and dunk in his face, and then you can say your mama.
Clearly, basketball has evolved in ways which James Naismith never could have foreseen.
Well, I'd say he performed a miracle in that he was able to devise rules which have withstood the test of time. And the common philosophy of the rules, that the game should be played athletically, that it should be played without violence, and that the rules should be simple.
It should be remembered that Naismith's intention was to create a game which was, above all else, fun to play. That's why today we see fathers and sons in driveways, playground games all over the world, and for the glamour events, a global audience numbering in the hundreds of millions.
Raja, Kukoc, Komazez and Petrovic, the starting lineup for Croatia.
Most games have developed over centuries, but basketball was invented in one burst of creative genius. Just what was it that James Naismith got right?
In the tournament, Jordan, first shot, bang.
I started with the basic idea that all team games are played with a ball. Then I realized that the ball must be large enough so that no stick or bat would be necessary. This would make the game easier to play and minimize any roughness.
I think the most beautiful idea he had was, instead of erecting the goal, being a good Protestant, they had to be goal-oriented to something, so there's going to be a goal here. Rather than put it down like a hockey goal, where in a small space, it'd be pretty violent and pretty physical, and blocking the ball with your body and so forth. He got the idea of putting it up, and then not putting it up like this so you sail it through, again like hockey, but putting it horizontal to the floor, so the ball has to go with a little arc of grace, as it were, to just drop through. It just added a beauty to the game, I think, a sheer physical beauty.
There were two fortunate accidents at the birth of basketball. First, the janitor couldn't find the boxes which Naismith had requested to be used as goals. Instead, he produced two peach baskets. The second stroke of luck was that the raised indoor running track to which Naismith attached the peach baskets was exactly 10 feet high. Imagine if it had been 8 or 14.
The environment in which basketball was born, there was a lot of clucking in the press and concern over football and rugby, that it was getting too rough, it was gouging, and that was one of the reasons that he said no contact, and you weren't supposed to run with the ball. Dribbling evolved later in the development of the game, but Naismith didn't want running with the ball because he figured, well, if people run, they have to be tackled, and that's where all the rough stuff comes in. So with that one rule of the original 13, he accomplished an enormous amount of things. He made it possible for great passing to come into play, dribbling to develop as a way to advance the ball. And I think he also made it possible for this game to develop into a three-dimensional ballet, an aerial ballet, because to get free to take a shot when you can't run, you have to jump, you have to get up there. And basketball is our one real third-dimensional game.
Leaping, again, is part of basketball. Going way back early in the years before man could fly, men were thinking about different ways of flying, and I think the ultimate goal is to learn to fly, almost in a sense, without any kind of mechanism or anything like that. And in a sense, that's what we're doing for 2 or 3 seconds, is that you're flying. And when you're up there, it's like the old stories go, the wind's blowing in your face and you feel free and you're up among the stars and the clouds and things like that. And that's the feeling I've always gotten. You know, when you're coming down the basketball court, you're thinking that you're a runaway freight train, and then all of a sudden you take that last step and you hear all this noise, this rumbling noise, and you take that last step to go up into the air, and all of a sudden it's just quietness. Sometimes it seems like eternity when I used to jump, you know, but in reality it's 2 or 3 seconds. You're free. You're up there by yourself. There's no one around. You have a basketball in your hand. It feels like you're invincible in a sense. And then all of a sudden you hear a thong and you dunk the basketball and you come back down to reality and the crowd is cheering and you hear your friends and teammates slapping you on the back and things.
The game kind of leaves the ground when the jump shot comes along in the 30s and 40s, but it really took Elgin Baylor to leave the ground with style. You know, the other guys were just kind of biplanes getting off the ground, and Elgin was the first jet. And with one hand, he could go into a much more graceful move than guys like Connie Hawkins. And Julius Erving continued that graceful tradition.
It springs from the soil of rural America. It breeds on the streets and playgrounds of the urban ghettos. It's called the dream, a fantasy shared by everyone who has ever known the feel of the ball and the sound of a swish. It's as real in the streets of Harlem as it is in the piazzas of Rome. The dream reaches all around the world. And it always starts the same way. A kid alone with a ball and a basket.